From Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Saamiyah Syed. Our top story tonight: Illinois will be the first state in the U.S. to recognize Arab Americans as a race. This is considered a major victory for people from the Middle East and North Africa or MENA region. The new law was passed by the Illinois legislature and signed by Governor J.B. Pritzker last Friday. It will take effect in 2025. Agencies must now include the MENA category in addition to existing ones like white, black, African American, American Indian, and Asian when reporting statistical data. The move is a significant step forward for the Arab American community, which has dealt with discrimination and invisibility for years. Arab Americans have had difficulty accessing resources and services and have been prevented from being accurately represented in government data. The new law will help ensure they are counted and included in government programs and policies. The bill was introduced by State Representative Abdel Nasser Rashid, a Chicago Democrat of Lebanese descent, and supported by various Arab American organizations. Some groups oppose the bill because it would create a new racial category not based on biological or genetic facts. A London-based human rights organization is preparing to sue the United States over the treatment of prisoners at Guantanamo Bay. Lawyer Anas Mustafa told Anadolu News Agency that the U.S. is unlawfully holding detainees at the prison without charge or trial. Mustafa is in charge of the Guantanamo project for the London-based NGO organization CAGE. He says detainees are subjected to all kinds of torture, including sexual abuse and psychological violence. Mustafa says the U.S. is trying to avoid responsibility for torture by transferring detainees to other countries. Guantanamo Bay Prison was established in 2002 as part of the U.S.'s global war on terror. The prison is located in Cuba outside U.S. territory to avoid legal sanctions for torture. The U.S. government has denied allegations of torture. CAGE provides legal assistance to detainees housed at Guantanamo. A U.S. Supreme Court judge has raised the issue of misconduct for taking 38 vacations organized by billionaires. Justice Clarence Thomas allegedly received lavish gifts from wealthy patrons, including flights on private jets, cruises on yachts, and expensive sports tickets. A ProPublica investigative report alleges the gifts were funded by industry titans and wealthy executives who share Thomas's ideology. The gifts appear to have violated the law and judicial standards because the judge did not disclose them. Thomas has received at least 38 vacations, including a previously unreported trip on a yacht around the Bahamas. He has also received 26 flights on private jets and 8 more by helicopter. Thomas has denied wrongdoing, but ProPublica's report raises serious questions about his ethical conduct. The Supreme Court judge has also stayed at luxury resorts in Florida and Jamaica and had a standing invitation to an exclusive golf club overlooking the Atlantic coast. The report raises serious questions about whether Thomas's relationships with his benefactors created a conflict of interest. It also raises questions about whether Thomas is fit to serve on the Supreme Court. Councilman Trayon White called for the deployment of the National Guard to combat the crime threat in Washington. He says there is growing anarchy, lawlessness, and widespread crime, especially against Black and other communities. White stressed that gunfire could be heard throughout the day and that the police may not be able to handle the situation. He says he is having discussions with the National Guard to seek their assistance. White pointed to recent incidents, including an August 6th shooting that left 3 people dead. In May, Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser warned of the gradual rise in crime rates. A public safety study found overall crime had increased by 27% and violent crime by 10% compared to the previous year, according to police. Bowser advocated for legislative changes to combat the problem, saying current city laws do not effectively address the issue. 6 former Mississippi police officers have pleaded guilty to assaulting 2 Black men. The white officers entered a home without a warrant and assaulted the men with a sex toy and firearms. One victim was shot and wounded in a mock execution that went wrong. Officers then conspired to plant and falsify evidence instead of providing medical assistance. According to court documents, the officers abused the victims for about 90 minutes. The Mississippi Attorney General's office filed charges against the 6 former officers. The officers were nicknamed the Goon Squad. During the raid, the officers called the 2 men racial slurs. One of the officers put a gun in the victim's mouth and fired, shredding his tongue and breaking his jaw, records show. The defendants who pleaded guilty are Christian Dedman, Hunter Elward, Brett McAlphin, Jeffrey Middleton, and Daniel Opdyke. Joshua Hartfield, a former Richland police officer who was off duty when he participated in the robbery, also pleaded guilty. The head of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation has called for coexistence and respect for other religions. Secretary General Hussein Brahim Taha spoke at a gathering of various religious leaders in Bangkok, Thailand. He called for promoting understanding and unity among different religious and cultural groups. Interacting with Thai, Muslim, Buddhist, and Christian religious leaders, Taha stressed the need for mutual respect between different faiths. He said it is necessary to create harmony to ensure peace and security. More on the Indian Supreme Court's decision regarding Jammu and Kashmir comes with details after the break, so stay tuned and we'll be right back. Welcome back. India's Supreme Court says that a referendum comparable to Brexit is not possible in the disputed state of Jammu and Kashmir. The court was considering petitions against the repeal of Article 370 of the Indian Constitution, which had granted special status to the disputed region. The provision was struck down by Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Hindu nationalist government on August 5, 2019. During Tuesday's hearing, senior counsel Kapil Sibal told that the repeal of Article 370 in 2019 was a political act, similar to Brexit. He argued that in case of Brexit, the opinion of UK citizens was sought through a referendum in 2016. Following this referendum, the UK left the EU in 2020, ending the country's 4-decade membership in the bloc. Chief Justice Dhananjaya Yashwant Chandrachud, however, noted that in a constitutional democracy, the opinion of the people must be sought through established institutions. India also divided the state into 2 centrally governed union territories, now called Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. The Muslim-majority region of Kashmir is claimed in full by both Pakistan and India, but is only partially ruled by each of them. Islamabad considers New Delhi's 2019 move illegal and has since downgraded diplomatic relations and suspended trade. There has been a surge in threats and attacks against mosques in Germany. Kemal Ergun, president of the Turkish Muslim group IGMG, cited an increase in acts of vandalism, harassment, and threats directed at mosques. In the first 3 months of 2023, official statistics showed that there were 124 attacks on Muslims in Germany. These actions often are accompanied by threatening letters signed NSU 2.0, referencing the Nationalist Socialist Underground. The neo-Nazi terror group has been responsible for murders and bombings targeting Turkish and Muslim immigrants. The rise in anti-Muslim sentiment is being attributed to the influence of neo-Nazi groups and the far-right Alternative for Germany party. The group has gained popularity and now is the 2nd largest in Germany. Burhan Kesici, chairman of the Islamic Council for the Federal Republic of Germany, urged democratic parties to stand up to right-wing populism and counter Islamophobia. Around 3 million people out of over 5 million Muslims in Germany are of Turkish origin. Former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan has been denied bail by a high court in the capital, Islamabad. The court has agreed to hear his appeal against the conviction in a few days. Khan was sentenced last month to 3 years in prison for corruption. His lawyers appealed his conviction. The court also rejected Khan's request to be moved to a more comfortable prison cell. Khan's party, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, has accused the government of launching a campaign of victimization against him. Khan has called for early parliamentary elections to be held later this year, but his chances of contesting the elections has been diminished by his conviction and imprisonment. The PTI has accused the government of using the courts to crack down on Khan and his party. Khan's supporters vow to continue protesting his conviction, while opponents welcome the court decision. Over 900,000 Afghan refugees have returned to Afghanistan from neighboring countries over the past year. The Taliban's interim administration said Wednesday these refugees returned from Iran, Pakistan, and other countries. According to the UN, more than 8 million Afghans have been displaced due to conflict, violence, and poverty. A majority of Afghan refugees have been living in neighboring Pakistan and Iran since the U.S. launched its war against their country in early 2001. Meanwhile, the country's central bank, the Afghanistan Bank, announced account holders can now withdraw up to $600 weekly and $2,000 monthly. It also announced inflation has dropped to over 2% from more than 15% 2 years ago. Thousands of Syrians displaced by the ongoing civil war live in squalid, unofficial camps in the Kurdish-controlled northeast region. These camps are not recognized by the international community and do not receive the same level of support as official camps. As a result, people there often live in extreme poverty with limited access to basic necessities such as food, water, and medical care. Rahma al-Hamoud told the media her children often get sick and she has to work long hours to make ends meet. She lives in El Yunani camp in the northern province of Raqqa, where the ISIS terrorist group has established its de facto capital before its defeat in 2017. Sheikh Mus Ahmed, a government official, says tens of thousands of people are living in dozens of informal camps in northern and northeastern Syria. He called on the international community to provide more assistance to these forgotten camps. According to Save the Children, the civil war has devastated health and sanitation infrastructure in war-torn Sudan. The international non-governmental organization has warned Sudan is at risk of major disease outbreaks. Residents report the capital, Khartoum, is littered with bodies from fighting between the army and paramilitary rapid support forces. The conflict has prevented victims and their families from reaching hospitals. And the ongoing lack of electricity has left the city's morgues without refrigeration. The United Nations reports that more than 6 million people are one step away from famine as agencies struggle to deliver life-saving aid. Sudan's war began in April when Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan led a coup against the civilian-led government. The conflict has killed at least 3,000 people and displaced more than 4 million. Over 700 academics have criticized the American Jewish community for ignoring Israeli apartheid and ethnic cleansing. The statement was made in a letter signed by notable academics such as Benny Morris, Shaul Majid, and Daniel Levy. They called on the leaders of American Jews to recognize the concept of apartheid in Israel. The scholars say the same Jewish community that supports progressive causes in the U.S. is closed off to Israeli actions. They urge Jewish leaders to work to limit U.S. military aid in the occupied Palestinian territories and end Israeli impunity. The signatories call for a focus on equal rights for Jews and Palestinians in Israel and the occupied territories. The letter highlights problems such as ethnic cleansing, the murder of Palestinians, and the growth of Jewish supremacy. That's all from our Toronto studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.